Hello, this is Andrew Collinson, Research Director of STL Partners and Telco 2.0. I'm here today at New Digital Economics in Palo Alto in California. I'm here with Shawn Price, who is President of Zuora. Shawn, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Could you tell me a little about what Zuora do?
Sure. We're right in the midst of a massive disruption of a traditional billing system that's suffering under a shift of model, to put it simply. Consumers and enterprises want to be sold to and serviced differently, and we're addressing that market segment in SaaS, cloud, media, and telecom.
So it's a cloud billing proposition primarily.
That's correct.
And we've been talking today quite a lot about how telcos can use cloud in different ways. And this is a key one, really, about how they can use it internally to change their competitive dynamics. Can you talk me through your experience in that?
I think there's a couple of things that are happening, right? You've got traditional infrastructure that was built around owning and managing a customer that now needs to respond to a new model. And that new model is often handed to you in the form of content partnerships, or it's handed to you in terms of billing and subscription models, and the organizations now have to be able to respond. The cloud, if you look at the baseline of what is current state, wants to be billed on a basis where I'm charged less by the location, I'm just charged less off peak hours, I want to be charged in arrears for what I've consumed, whether that's at the OS, the application, or storage basis, and that's just the state of the art today. And I think the fundamental shift is equipping organizations to charge in that way and manage the holistic subscription lifecycle that's associated with that. Imagine trying to sell someone and upsell them without having the content of which they've actually consumed. Or the service side of that equation, when I call in to dispute my bill, that the information is there. So I think the cloud is an incredible opportunity for carriers and telephony companies alike, but they need to inherit these models. And whether they're passed under partnership for resale or they're initiated in the case of AT&T with Terramark's acquisition, they have to evolve and support that model.
So can you give me an example of the benefits of using this model? For example, I think we talked about OpenRange as one of your case studies. Could you show me some of the things they've done?
I think that there's two or three different segments. The first is Greenfield, where I'm launching a new service, and in this case it was OpenRange had switches, they had GLs, they had CRMs, and they were launching 17 net new products into 550 regional markets, and they had an extreme time to market pressure. They were selling 4G to 6 million subscribers, and they were selling through multiple channels, direct, indirect, .com, and partner portals. And so the choice was really, do I extend what I have? Do I build my own? Or do I accommodate this shift in model? And so what OpenRange did was used our technology to build the set of products, to come to market in 100 days, integrated it to consume usage data from Alianza the switch, pushed it into Salesforce on the front end to service the order, and then pushed it into a payment gateway for the credit card upgrades. And it was remarkable. I remember the timing. It was right in middle of December, and we got the call that said, can you fit this timeline? And the timeline was 100 days. And it ended up 15 integration points deployed on time, and they've ended up changing their pricing at least 5 to 10 times in the first 3 months of deployment. And so why is that? Because subscription is absolutely empirical. You can measure whether it's successful or not by the adoption. And if it's not, you need to iterate and change price points up and down. And so this has been a fantastic customer. We announced today our Zuora for communications. We announced it with 10 customers in telecom. At the top end, it's Qualcomm and Tata. In the mid-market, it's companies like OpenRange that I just described. And in the emerging sector, it's companies in voice over IP like Vocalocity or others. And so we see an acute pain point in demand in this market. And I think we're uniquely situated to address the shifting model with the flexibility that these companies like OpenRange require.
Can you tell me about the kind of cost benefits of using a cloud deployment as opposed to a standard one?
Yeah, what's interesting is large providers have often built their own. But what's the first thing that happens when you build your own? It becomes a cost center, and you strive to strip the cost out. Well, that's okay if you have a fixed model. But if you have a model in flux, or you have any variability in the subscription, you actually can't get away with pulling the resources off. So on a cost basis, it's probably on a 10-to-1 basis. It's not unusual to hear billing infrastructures for large carriers costing $50 to $100 million. We're 10x less at a minimum. That's not just for the current use case, but that's the flexibility to support all future. The other thing that the cloud has wrought, and SaaS company providers like us, is an innovation cadence that's vastly different than the old on-prem. We're releasing our products on a monthly basis. and we're shipping it with hundreds of units of measure and charge models pre-built. And so that allows for all of the models that they're contemplating to be incorporated very quickly in SaaS. And so whether you look at it from a cost basis, you look at it from a flexibility or change management perspective, I think we've got a really unique value proposition. And candidly, no one wants to change their billing system. I mean, you have to be in acute pain, and I don't want to create the state that you're going to get into pain, otherwise nothing will happen. And so today, we're growing at 400% year over year. We've been cash flow positive very quickly in the SaaS construct, and we have a global business today with millions and millions of subscribers. One data point that might be of interest to your viewership is that in the second quarter of last year, we announced $1 billion of contracted revenue net new in the second quarter. This is not a model that's an evolution. This is a model that has actually arrived. And we've taken that out of on-premise general ledger systems and moved it into the cloud. So it's quite an interesting space with a lot of dynamicism.
So when you say you've taken it out of, does it mean that the telcos in those cases said goodbye, thank you very much to their old systems, or have they added on the cloud component to their old systems to provide the additional capability?
I think there's some stuff that we won't really do, right? Mediation, OSS, BSS, the telecom taxation, and the infrastructure that's been built for addressing and all of the infrastructure that's nascent. And in that case, we coexist very well for that class of services that needs to be nimble and have a new monetization strategy. I have other customers where it's greenfield, and it is a complete replace, or they've got homegrown billing systems where they just can't keep up. Those might be billing systems coming off something as antiquated as an AS400 that they're now moving into the cloud. And so I run the complete spectrum from greenfield, where we're first rip and replace, all the way through to coexistence. And we have many clients where we coexist with Amdocs and Oracle and SAP. I have many who are using Amdocs strictly for their traditional business, and everything else that's new is coming through us. And in that case, you have coexistence.
Shawn, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.